We are here today on March 10th, 2015 in beautiful Los Angeles at UCLA. It's a gorgeous day outside, sunny, 70 degrees. We're about to hear an impromptu from Gabriel. And in a moment, you'll hear which one.
Just do all. Or yeah.
7.
Yes, please. Sorry.
Today, Gabriel will talk on a quote by Abraham Lincoln. God must love the common man. He made so many of them.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabe.
Hi, Gabe.
Okay, so God must love the common man. He made so many of them. So this was said by Abraham Lincoln, 1862. Now, this phrase, the common man, has been used many times from Washington to Roosevelt, Lincoln, even to Obama. It's been used in political rhetoric to try to relate to the masses and make them feel like they understand what the president is coming from. Now, I believe there is some context as to why this was said. Lincoln is not the, when we think about Lincoln today, we think about him as the champion of the Civil War. We think about him as the freer of slaves. But what's important to understand is that Lincoln at the beginning wasn't how we thought. He wasn't the African-American lover that we thought he is now. In fact, when he started the Civil War, he didn't even want to free the slaves. It wasn't even one of his main objectives. But as the war drew on, Lincoln, he realized something that the founding fathers 100 years ago, 150 years before his time, never realized. When they made the Constitution and gave birth to their nation, they said that the nation was founded on an idea. This was the first time in the history of the world that a country was founded not on people, not on a nation, not on nationalistic tendencies, but on an idea. And that idea was freedom. But Lincoln, he saw that freedom should apply to everyone, not just to the white privileged Americans that had land at the time. So, fast forward about 5 years later, it's the Gettysburg Address. Lincoln comes and gives one of the most powerful speeches in human history. In just over 2 minutes, Lincoln is able to personify the ideals that the country was made on and exemplify the values of human equality. So I'm not going to read the whole speech because I don't have time, but the first and the last sentence of that speech are what really speaks to this quote today. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the position that all men are created equal. We were highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. Now, this was the first time in the history of the United States that the United States was referred to as a nation. Not as a union, but as a nation. And as Lincoln identified there, he thought that there needed to be a new birth of freedom, that if the United States was to exemplify the principles of freedom, it needed to do so for all those who lived there. So this quote was important back then in that he saw that all men are, that the common man is... that God must love the common man because he made so many of them. Now, why did he think that? What I think is that he's speaking to a point that's that if everyone is special in their own different way, then we are actually all similar. You see, what I think Lincoln was getting at is that all humanity is more or less the same. That even though we might be born in Singapore, we might die in Sweden, we might live in Johannesburg, we are all born, we all live, and we all die. So no matter how many, and that if there was such a problem with being born black, with being born disabled, with being born gay, with being born any of these different qualities, then why would God, who Lincoln saw as the omnipotent creator, why would he make so many of these people if they were mistakes? Why would he let these people live on? Why would he make these people live among the others in the world if it was such a mistake to be born of this type? Gonna look this down. So what I think is that if Lincoln was alive today, the first thing he would do is try out for the WWE because he was very into show and wrestling and all that. But then he would look at the different problems that are present in the nation right now. Something like, for example, the Trayvon Martin case, or things where hatred and racism engulf the minds of the people involved. He would say that if we're all the same, of the same species, if we're all the same same common man, why is there so much hatred? Why is there so many problems between us and our fellow man? Now, I'm afraid I'm going to have to use my backup example, which I didn't want to, but in the comic The Watchmen, which was made in the 1980s, Alan Moore was able to use a graphic novel to show that humanity is really all the same, and that if we are only when united against a common foe, we see that we're all not that different. Now, in the comic is set in Soviet Russia in an alternate, or excuse me, in the Cold War in an alternate timeline, where humanity is on the brink of nuclear destruction. Now, through a lot of things that I'm not going to explain, Ozymandias, one of the main characters, he stages an alien invasion that is not real, but it ends up killing millions of people. But in doing so, he saves billions of people because he unites the country, the Soviet Union and the United States, the two different governments, to show that united against a common foe, united against something that's trying to destroy humanity, they pull their differences together and see that, or put their differences aside and see that they're not that different. So I think that, well, I'm not religious. Lincoln himself saw the principles of humanity, saw that the common man is really all of us, that the leaders, followers, beggars, people, wealthy people, they're all of the same origin, they're all the same person, and we need to learn to live together and sing Kumbaya. Now, in conclusion, I've said more or less wasn't counting, 3 different examples of how, or interpretations of Lincoln's quote, and I believe that, Lincoln was getting at one of the main points in the Constitution, that the government, that it's liberty and justice for all, and not liberty and justice for some, and that the government should be by the people, for the people, and not just for some of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. 620. Thank you. What did you like?
I'm Celestine.
Hi, Celestine.
I think that every time you go up there, you give a really confident speaking style, and that really helps you. And I think that's the thing was that you were holding yourself back from like being a really good speaker. I think you naturally are able to do this really well and do impromptu delivery well. But I think you were just holding yourself back from anything.
Improvement.
Hi, I'm Millie.
Hi, Millie.
Your speech was really, really good. I thought maybe one thing you could improve on is maybe just the way that you were working the room. But it seemed like you were really prepared, so that's good.
Wow. Really?
Okay, good. And you had an additional comment? Stand up, say your name.
Hi, my name's Rana.
Hi, Rana.
So we all know you're on mock trial, and obviously you were just not, you've said it a few times, and it was just obvious you weren't prepared for this speech, but that's not my main critique. My main critique is that every time you stand up, you start performing from the second you stand up till the second you sit down, you're delivering your speech. And when you go up there with an air of arrogance and begin to curse, and your facial expressions right now aren't polite, and when you go to tournaments such as you do, the judges are people, and they're going to judge you based, they can't help it, because I try to judge as objectively as I can, but a lot of judges that I've judged with judge people based on if they like them or not, and they get lower speaker points because they just don't like them. And you're a great speaker, but when you do go up with an air of arrogance, and even your reaction to me right now, it hurts your speech.
That's all the awards have gotten. Thanks.
Even that comment. It would just, you don't have to take my critique, but it is something you should work on.
Well, I don't know what the clicking means. Yeah, Gabriel, gosh. Come on in. It's just me speaking. Thank you for...
Policy paper?
What?
Policy paper?
Positive paper?
Policy paper.
Yeah, she'll take it. And you have your third extent? Self-evaluation, third extent. Gabriel,
Yes, sir.
yeah, look, I don't know how much of this is going to help, but and I don't know how much of the others you watched, but I agree with Rana in a lot of what she said, and I think that you gave away a lot of non-verbal ahead of the speech that undercut yourself. You didn't seem pleased with the choice of the topic. Oh my God! And that, your audience sees this, and so they wonder. Secondly, the use of notes and and the running back and forth with it hurts your credibility.
Yeah.
And no question about it. And you saw from other speakers that they didn't do that, and they were much more accomplished. There was much more practice. Let's go to the content, though. And I couldn't quite tell what your intro was.
Yeah.
And you really seemed to be struggling, but we somehow got the idea, and whatever it was, it lasted about 2 minutes. And I want you to watch this tonight and see what you were kind of doing. It was kind of interesting. But in any case, you made reference to the Gettysburg Address, which was interesting and good for Lincoln, and you didn't use the whole thing, but the first and the last.
It was tempting.
Yeah, it was tempting to fill time, I guess.
Yeah.
God must love the common man. Love the common man. He made so many of them. One of the things that, we like to do in this speech is early on get the quote out there and do some analysis of it and say, here's what I think it means, and then I agree or disagree with it, and then here are some examples of why I agree or disagree with it. And what I didn't see is some real support for the position that you were taking. I saw, if Lincoln was alive today, and you made reference to Trayvon Martin. Yeah. And then you pulled out Ozymandias, and that was a real go-to for when you're really desperate, right? And and but you filled 6 minutes and 20 seconds. But I think what I can say most productively is if you want to get good at impromptu speaking, you have to work at it.
Yeah.
And it's not a casual thing. And I don't know how much you watched Ian's speech, and he made it look effortless, but it's not. He practiced very hard and worked very hard, as did all those student models that I had you watch and look at. And so I would just hope that you wouldn't give up on this, because it's a good skill to have, to be able to really think on your feet and speak on your feet.
Yeah.
So you got it done. Thank you.
Do you want the outline for the third one, the exempt speech?
For this last one?
No, for the third exempt speech.
Yeah. We just said we collected the exempt speech, the brief. Okay, and then after Rana will be Benjamin Morris.
So I go up right now?
Yeah, you busy?
Just 1 second.
Please say yes.
Oh, I can be looking you up, huh? Let's see. You bet, Sammy.
Oh, thanks.
Out.
I wear this every day. That's for my third exam.
Okay, that goes here. Thank you. There you are. Good. Okay. Okay, okay, let's see what we got going here. Okay. We're here on March 10th. Beautiful UCLA. 70 degrees outside. And Rana is going to speak on the following extemp question. Excuse me, impromptu question, Freudian slip. They say a person needs 3 things to be truly happy in this world. Someone to love, something to do, something to hope for. By Thomas Edward Baudet.
So I have this close friend named Rebecca, and she is really unhappy. But when I first met her, I thought that she lived the perfect life. She's beautiful, she has a boyfriend whom she's madly in love with. He constantly takes her out and showers her with gifts. She works at a chiropractor's office, studying her hardest to become a doctor, and she goes to school. Thus, she has someone to love, something to do, and something to hope for. So why is she so miserable? And that's what I'm going to address today. Thomas Baudet said, you need 3 things in life to be happy. Something to love, something to hope for, and something to do. And I absolutely disagree with this quote for 3 reasons. Firstly, you can have all 3 of these things and be absolutely miserable. Secondly, only you could define happiness for you. And thirdly, Thomas Baudet is not a credible source to be giving life advice. And you guys may think, why is this significant to me? And that is, you guys are about to graduate UCLA and go out and venture off into the world. And what is important to you is to find happiness. That's what we all aim to do, to be happy within our lives. And so for somebody to come in and define what happiness means for you should not be allowed. Now, my first point is that you can have all 3 of these things and be absolutely miserable. And like I said in my introduction, my friend Rebecca had all 3 of these things. But her parents' divorce when she was 13 years old crushed her self-esteem. Her boyfriend, who she's madly in love with, verbally and emotionally abuses her. And her depression is only spiraling down with an eating disorder because she thinks her body looks too petite. Now, I try to help her, but she has all these 3 things, something to love, something to hope for, and something to do, yet she's miserable. So, you can have all 3 of these things and still not be happy. My second point is that nobody should be able to define happiness for you. What causes you happiness may be completely different than the person next to you that brings them happiness. For me, I'm an introvert. I love being in my room, closing the door, reading a book, watching Netflix, just being alone. My boyfriend does not understand this. He constantly thinks I'm angry with him. He always wants to go out with our friends, and I just say I just want to be alone. And for him, going out makes him happy, and for me, staying at home in peace brings me happiness. My third reason that something to do, something to hope for, and someone to love is not an anecdote to bring you happiness is because Thomas Baudelaire is simply not a reliable source. In my research, I try to find some background on Mr. Baudelaire, and the only thing that I could find is that he's a famous spokesperson for Motel 6. In fact, the only thing he's known for is this one quote that I'm speaking about today, and his second quote, which actually brought him fame, and a Wikipedia page, Motel 6, we'll leave the lights on for you. So, obviously, Thomas Baudelaire is not someone who should be spewing out life advice to the masses. Should not be spewing out life advice to the masses. And so, I come forward to you guys today and let you know that 3 things that you need absolutely more than 3 things in life. Someone to love, something to do, and something to hope for is not enough. And our problem is that in today's society, we look at the person next to us and hope for and think they are happier than we are. And this is true. In a TED Talk given by Parel Serral, the New York Times editor, she claims that we look at somebody else and we see them and we think, wow, they're happy, because we construct ideas in our own mind and we try to go after them, and everybody becomes a writer in the time of jealousy. But what's true is that you need to find your own happiness, and you do not need to look at others to see what happiness is. Whether that be the person next to you or Thomas Baudelaire giving you life advice, you need to define happiness for you. So in conclusion, you need more than 3 things to be happy. Simply someone to love, something to do, and something to hope for is not enough. Thank you.
Okay, stay in the center for your feedback, Rana. Thank you. I can believe we're here. Ooh.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, Mina.
I really like your speech for a couple of different reasons. The first thing being, I think you had a speech where you were given 3 things, and I think a lot of us would kind of run off with the idea of just arguing each point. But instead of doing that, I think you actually made an argument about the speech. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to explain what this quote is. It was, hey, I'm going to give a stance on this speech, which I think a lot of people kind of shy away from. So I think it was really effective with that side.
Thank you. Improvement?
I'm Shireen. I
Hi,
thought
Shireen.
it was really good as well. I think maybe just your platform movement, you're still stepping back. Just not a big deal.
Yeah. I apologize. I was listening so much. I failed to be the cameraman at times, so you're going to see some blank spaces tonight. Well, it's just white. Rana, Tom Baudelaire, I'll leave the light on for you. Yeah, what a guy. So you started off with your friend Rebecca, who has ostensibly all the things that Tom Baudelaire says that you need. Someone to love, something to do, and something to hope for, Hope, you got to keep busy, and you got to love somebody. On its face, doesn't seem bad advice, but you poked deeper and you thought about it, which I appreciated, and you thought of your friend Rebecca and you thought, well, hell, Rebecca has these things and she's not happy. And so that was an interesting, surprising beginning that I liked very much. On your thesis preview, you said you took a position. You said, I'm going to disagree with this quote. You told us where you were going. It was very succinct. And then you played it to this audience. You're all graduating and you all want to be happy, and so maybe you better think about this. So, on your first point, you went back to Rebecca. My only quibble, and it is a quibble, is that maybe this one example, the divorce and all that, and the loser boyfriend that beats her and all that, maybe she should dump him, that doesn't sound very healthy.
That was my conclusion, but she did.
Oh, that's good. Because that should never be allowed, even emotional kind of stuff. So I just wonder about, if one example, but I think you made your case, and you showed that at least in this example, that was really true. On your second reason, I think that was well argued, and I think that about being self-defined and doing it for yourself, that was good. On your third reason, your ad hominem attack on Tom Baudet, I guess he is as good as anybody to talk about it, but probably not a philosopher, or he's a paid spokesman for Motel 6, no less. You can come in, but thank you for waiting respectfully at the door. Yeah, and here's what I think. What I think that was crying out in this speech. You can take a seat. Yeah, you don't have to stand up. Yeah. You told us by negation what happiness is not, but you didn't really get at too much what you think, except by your own personal example. As an introvert, I like to watch Netflix and read books and stay in my room like the Beach Boys, in my room, Carl Wilson, or whatever his name was. And in some ways, if you could have generalized that and said, if you follow your own heart and do what you feel is your destiny, then perhaps you'll be happy. There are people in the psych department that study happiness, and they talk about the idea that the happiest people are the people that have a small gap between what they want and what they get. They don't have this big thing like, I want to be a millionaire. And so they're constantly not happy because they're only a $100,000 a year salary person. So I thought you could have, it didn't necessarily mean it, but you could have addressed that. Your summary, conclusion, and tie back were all good. What were your goals in speaking today? What were you trying to accomplish?
I didn't want to use a note card.
You didn't?
I wanted to work on my walking, which I still need to work on.
Yeah, it's still a little.
Classes,
yeah.
Still
a little, ragged.
And I wanted to gain attention of my audience.
Yeah. Okay, good. I think that similar to what you were trying to help your colleague with, I think that you presented a favorable verbal and nonverbal presence from the moment you left your seat to the moment you got up there, and that was good. So thank you. Hi Ben, how you doing?
Hey, doing all right. How are you?
Oh, real busy now. Yeah.
All right, self-evaluation from extemp 2. Notes, it's in a grid format because I don't know what I'm doing yet, just by example.
Okay. And I'll find you here somewhere.
Oh. So we're laughing.
Okay, you're somewhere, huh?
Yes.
Okay, I found you.
Professor, do you know who's going next? Sorry, before you give them the subject.
Oh, who's going next? Sure, I can tell you that. Who's going next will be Masood. Masood. Machilas. Ooh, the big zero. Okay. After that will be Millie. Happy? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you must.
So I think you're up next.
Okay, yeah. These are all great quotes you chose, Ben. But I'm inclined because of the exercise that I do with the respect exercise that I do for my Calm One course. I want to hear number 3. So, Ben, on this beautiful day in California, where the sun is shining and it's 70 degrees, is going to speak on this topic. Today, I bent the truth to be kind, and I have no regrets, for I am far surer of what is kind than I am of what is true. By Robert Baruch.
Now, everyone on UCLA's mock trial team knows that Gabe is a very strong guy, but few people know that he can actually bench press a Toyota Camry. And is it just me, or is UCLA's freshman class getting more and more attractive every single year? And hey, is that Channing Tatum? No, it's just Professor Miller over there. You know, Robert Brault once said, "Today I bent the truth to be kind, and I have no regret, because I am far surer of what is kind than what is true." Now, I disagree with this quote. I, in fact, believe that when we bend the truth, it is unacceptable and it often goes too far. When we ask ourselves the question, should we tell lies in order to protect people's feelings, the answer is clearly no. We shouldn't do that because often we go too far. And we can see this in 3 prime examples. The first of which is talking about success in competition with kids. The second one that we can see is when we look to the field of medicine, where people don't reveal diseases that they have to their family. And finally, we can look at personal examples when it goes too far, when we bend the truth, that actual real praise is seen as disingenuous. So we can take those examples one by one, but first I'd like to talk about why this is significant. Now, even if you're not someone who gives a lot of compliments, you've probably received a compliment at some point, or you have to evaluate whether something is true or whether someone is really just saying it. That's something we go about every day in our lives. These things just happen, and therefore we have to be concerned about whether these things are good or bad. It affects the behavior that we have, and it affects how we react to other people's behavior. So with that said, I'm sure you're going to listen to my next 3 examples. The first example, I think, goes back to when we were all very little, and we all had our competitions of some sort. We had a ballet class, in my case. Other people had sports. Other people had debate competitions or public speaking. And one of the things that I learned through this was that you are going to lose. I am not going to be the world's best ballet dancer. And to this day, I'm right. I'm not the world's best ballet dancer. But what kids are being told now is that your loss is not really a loss. You participated, and therefore you're going to get a participation trophy, not just a ribbon, an actual trophy just because you went through the motions and completed the activity. Now what this says to kids is, you're a winner, even in the situation when you're not a winner. Effectively, what we're telling them is, we're going to be kind to you, but we're not going to be truthful. We're going to bend what the truth is in order to show them that their feelings shouldn't be hurt. You're a good ballet dancer, you're good at tennis, you're good at speech and debate. All of these things we say to kids, and it's problematic. Why is it problematic? It's because these kids are no longer prepared for what the real world is going to throw at them. We come into the world thinking, these kids come into the world thinking that everything's going to be okay. They're going to be able to get a job, and when they do get that job, they're not going to be fired for incompetence. They'll just get a "you participated at work" award. Unfortunately, that's not the way the world works, which shows why Robert Brault's quote is problematic. But the second way that we can look at this topic is in the field of medicine. And this has a really disturbing trend that I've been personally affected by. See, a common trend when people are diagnosed with fatal diseases is to deny that they exist and let everyone in their life around them continue to live. A close family friend of mine is currently doing this to her children. She has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which is effectively a death sentence. Within the next 2 years, she is going to die. Her kids have no idea. They continue living the same life as though their mom doesn't have cancer. They have no idea that this is going to occur. Now, this mom's idea of why she's doing this is to protect her children. She's trying to be kind rather than be truthful. She's bending the truth, like Robert Brault said. Now, I would have regrets about this, and it's not even me who's doing the action. I would have regrets about this because it's creating such a potential for trauma. You're not giving your child a chance to cope with the eventual loss that's going to be coming. You are selfishly taking the years of their life where they are not going, where you're still with them, and you're going to traumatize them so much in the future when one day their mother is gone. This is clearly problematic, and it shows why bending the truth is not acceptable. Finally, I'd like to talk about one last point, which is a little bit lighthearted, but it goes to the issue of why this is not good and why we can't bend the truth, because it makes people think that compliments are disingenuous. Now, last week, I saw a really awesome tennis match, and actually, Caitlin in this class was playing in it, and she was on the court watching her teammate play in the finals against USC. The score was tied 3-3, so it came down to the last match. This tennis player, Chanel Van Nguyen, did the most amazing job in any sports competition that I've ever seen, and I mean that honestly. And so, after she won her match by coming back after a 6-5 tiebreak to win the last set against USC, and everyone poured onto the court, I went to Twitter and I said to her over Twitter, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in sports. And I think that when we do these truthful actions, sometimes they're drowned out by other people who bend the truth. And people who are out there saying, oh, this is the greatest person ever, or this was the best ever, and we're so bombarded with these things, especially in the internet era, that sometimes these truthful compliments don't come off as actually being genuine compliments. And so this is problematic, and it goes back to Robert Brault's quote. If all of us keep bending the truth, then the truth is so bent that the actual, real truth means nothing. When we keep everything behind a guise of, well, is this going to be kind? Is this just a white lie? We lose a sense of what the world is actually going to be about. And so I think, summing this all up, we should clearly see that everyone in this room should know that bending the truth to be kind is not acceptable. And if you do it, there should be some doubt. Now, I'm not trying to say that Gabe isn't strong, or that Sam isn't attractive, or that Professor Miller doesn't resemble Channing Tatum. But I think that all of us know, deep down, that these sorts of white lies that we tell ourselves are not acceptable, and they do have real impacts, as we've seen through the examples of children who are about to enter the workforce to get jobs, and for people who have cancer and don't tell their children, leaving them to be traumatized when they pass from this world. So for all these reasons, I think that we understand that Robert Brault's quote is inaccurate. Thank you.
Thank you. 7-Eleven.
Oh.
We're here.
Oh, sorry.
Start with your name.
Oh, hi, I'm Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
I really liked your speech. You seem so confident. I like how you related it to the classroom, so it made us more interested in it because we're like, oh, Caitlin, we know her. We know Professor Miller. So I don't know. I thought you made it really relatable, which was good.
Okay, good. Yeah. Had good illusions. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, Caitlin.
Yeah, you always do a great job. You're very relatable, and I always love your very clear structure. You tell us where you're going. You stick to it. You're very consistent. I can't really think of a critique. Like your platform movement on your third point could have been more in the center, but other than that, like, great job.
Yeah. Ben, good job. I liked your intro. I like the last speech we had with Rhonda that someone said, no, this is BS. I'm not going to take the easy way out and agree with it and give 3 good examples of doing it. I'm going to disagree. And so I like that. Your preview was well done, and your significance was well done. On your first example, this is a disturbing trend where every kid gets a trophy that comes out for the team, regardless of whether they place or not. It reminds me of this movie, Meet the Falkers or something, where he had trophies for showing up, and they made fun of that. There's an interesting debate going on about that, but you didn't have that debate. You just had the idea that we're patting too many kids on the back. On medicine, this one was interesting, but perhaps a little more problematic in your example. The mother, let's take your scenario. The mother says, okay, hi kids, I'm dying. And then the next 2 years have a cloud over them. Is it her decision to make, do you think? Or is it out of her hands? That she has a moral responsibility, are you arguing, to tell the kids?
Yeah, I don't
the minute she knows, really?
Yeah, I don't think I argued the other side enough. What I think would be the best course of action would be to sit down and say that they're dying, in order to just allow them to transition a little bit better, rather than just no. Eventually, it's going to come out that it was hidden. And I don't think that I explained the situation.
The loss of hair or something, yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. I think that could have been better argued. On your third reason, I liked the way you included someone from the class, and you Chanel, is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you got it right.
And so you were proud that you gave her a genuine compliment on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And so you were proud of that. What this fella was getting at, and you tended to ignore them, what were the comments that are when you whip people with the truth, or when you're cruel with the truth, when you say, hi, you're fat, or, oh my God, your nose, I can ski on it, or, really mean stuff, right? And so people end up telling or overlooking little things or little white lies to grease the social network, right? So you didn't say much about that. Summary, conclusion, and tieback were all excellent. You used your full time. You did a really good job. Thank you. Okay. On deck is Masood Makhalis. What? What?
I think he's after me because he walked in.
Yeah, on deck. I said on deck. On deck. It's a baseball metaphor. Meaning after you.
Okay, sorry.
The hitter. You're the hitter.
I have partial list. You can check this.
Okay, Millie, you're on here somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay, Millie. There you are. Okay.
Emily, do you want 7, 6, 5, 4, or just 4, 3, 2, 1?
4, 3, 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. Millie? Gosh. Your quotes are really all over the place, aren't they? So let's hear from Ralph Waldo Emerson, your first quote, who said, "Light is the first of painters. There is no object so foul that intense light will not make it beautiful." Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Hi everyone, I'm Millie.
Hi, Millie.
Hi. Okay. So, imagine that you're in a situation where you're hearing about a lot of ignorance in the news, and you think to yourself that there's nothing really, or if there was something you could do, what would it be? And in my opinion, I think that Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote, "Light is of the first painters," and that there's no object so foul that intense light can't make it look beautiful. I agree with this quote. So today I want to talk about that. I think that this quote is relevant to all of us because I believe that if we, as we call ourselves the optimists at UCLA, and I feel that with our comprehensive knowledge and our education, we can really drive out intense or foul objects, which I'll explain in my speech today. So in regards to the quote, I'm going to talk about light as in, it's not literally, but as in metaphorically. So the first point that I want to make is that if we consider light to be knowledge, then I think that light can really drive out ignorance. So as we can see in history, there have been instances where there has been a lot of ignorance that concerns racism, oppression, and violation against human rights. And I believe that if there is knowledge and there's power and there's education, then that light, as we know it, or knowledge, can really drive out ignorance. So I believe that Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote, that this foul object, which is ignorance, can be driven out by intense light, which I think to be, that could be knowledge, which is really relevant to us because I feel that any student who has extensive education and is very open-minded should be able to drive out ignorance. So my second point is that sometimes we have friends who we know, or people that we know who have maybe fallen in love or had a crush on someone who, when you look at them, you're just like, what are you thinking, right? But that person is so blinded by their love that they can't see the bad characteristics of this person. So in that case, like for instance, there are people who are in abusive relationships who just can't get past the fact that their spouse or their partner is treating them with a lot of disrespect, because they're blinded by this intense light, which they know to be as love. So love is a light that possibly would basically take out the foul object, which in this case is the abusive relationship. And thirdly, I believe that light can also drive out the foul object, which is also like as in when a person is in a really, really dark place and they start to think that they don't have a reason to live anymore. I feel that light, or in this case, appreciating what you have around you, can really drive you out of the darkness. So people turn to religion, or they turn to community or charity work in which they can bring themselves up and work towards bringing themselves out of the darkness, and maybe think to themselves that they really do have a purpose in this life. So in that way, not wanting to live anymore is in my opinion something that is really bad, and I feel that appreciating things is the light that can drive out that bad those bad feelings within a person. So in conclusion, today I briefly talked about how light can drive us out of ignorance by use of power and knowledge, how light can blind, light in the sense of being, if you're in love with someone, it can blind you and it can make you think that the person you're with is someone so great, even maybe if they're not. And the third thing is that light can provide a means for you to realize that there is a purpose for you to live. And that light can be anything like religion, charity, community work, anything that you love can help you get out of that dark place. And for these reasons, I do believe and I do agree with Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote that light is the first of painters, and there is no object so foul or so bad that intense light will not make it beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, stay up there for your feedback. I believe we're here.
I really like your interpretation.
Start with your name, please.
My name is Sam.
Hi, Sam.
I really liked your interpretation of the quote, which made that knowledge drives out ignorance. That was really a good quote.
Yeah. Not just a literal interpretation, but got metaphorical. So that was good. Improvement.
Hi, my name's Aseret.
Hi, Aseret.
You did a very good job. I really like Sam said, your interpretation of the quote. It was metaphorical. I would suggest working on your voice variation. It was consistent throughout the speech, and it was hard to follow sometimes.
Okay.
No, yeah. Try to have a grabber, a poem, a quote, a story, something that grabs us and draws us in. You kind of just started with the quote, and and said you agreed with it, which is fine, and you ended with it, so that was your tie back. You didn't give us a preview in the beginning, so we didn't really have a roadmap of where you were going to go. You gave a beautiful summary, though, in the end, so that was good. But we like to have an overview of what you're going to do. Let's talk about your arguments and how you made them. You talked about light being knowledge, and light is better than knowledge, light is better than darkness, knowledge is better than ignorance, and that sort of thing. And that's a very common and perfectly acceptable interpretation, and was well done and well argued. So I thought your first point was good. When you watch yourself tonight, you're going to see your friends in love was a little bit awkwardly argued, and I knew what you meant, and somehow you're kind of blinded by you're thinking they're beautiful, but they're not beautiful, and they're really ugly. And there was a famous movie with Robert Young called The Enchanted Cottage, where they were blinded to the deformities in each other, but they saw each other as beautiful till the world intruded on them. But you could have argued this a little more simply and a little more persuasively. Okay, simply. So I just it wasn't clear. On your third point about light being a source of inspiration and keeping you away from suicide or dark thoughts or feelings, I think that needed a little more elaboration. What was the time?
5:25.
5:25. Yeah, you had plenty of time to elaborate and do some more work. So your conclusion, I think the quote is true, and then come back to something that you're going to, tie back to, if it's a poem or a quote or something in the beginning. But overall, you got the job done. Thank you, Millie. Okay, that brings us to Masood.
Professor, who's on deck then?
Who's on deck then will be on deck, baseball metaphor. Shireen. You back up one step, or I'll back up a little. You're real tall, and the camera's not cooperating today. No, I'm good. I'm fine.
She's volunteering as tribute.
Oh, I would volunteer too.
There we go. Okay. Elaborate mating ritual I'm observing here.
Elaborate mating ritual.
Okay. Apropos to let's see how you handle number one by Mary Webb, who wrote, "If you stop to be kind, you must swerve often from your path," by Mary Webb.
So I walk up here nervous to give my speech, and my lovely classmate compliments me on how I look. And I guess it kind of triggers thoughts in your head, why I seem dressed up for a speech, kind of taking it a little too seriously. But no, it's actually because recently I have a job that I just came from, and I got it through a network, from networking through my community. I'm Afghan, and I networked through my Afghan club, and I found a job, and my boss is Afghan as well, and she told me she likes to hire Afghans. So she also told me, while going in for expecting to be an interview, I go in there, and she starts describing the job, and I'm like waiting to tell her about myself and all that good stuff. And the camera falls. On my way there, I text her and saying, "So I'm going to email you my resume." She's like, "No, it's fine." And I'm thinking, it's a little too easy. It's great that she's being a little nice, but I feel like, if she does this all the time, it might hurt her. And so I ended up finding out that there's been other Afghan people that she's hired, and those people didn't do a great job. And I'm still surprised that she's still kind enough to hire me, but without any prior knowledge of how I am as a worker. So I'll give you 3 reasons how this quote takes place. One of them, I'll show you how it takes place in relationships. I will show you how it takes place in business partnerships, and I will show you how it takes place as students. So, in relationships, it's often common knowledge to give for your significant other and be nice to them and love them unconditionally. But so many people do this and they go through it and then they end up heartbroken. So going into a relationship, are you supposed to have a defense mechanism and not go full-heartedly? Are you supposed to kind of back up and just refrain from the L word? Or are you supposed to just take that leap of faith, be kind, and take the risk of getting hurt? Divorce rates are rising day by day, and it's common knowledge that these things are bound to happen. Murphy's Law, whatever can happen will happen. So in relationships, it's important to be kind and sacrifice your own being, take risks. It's important to take risks, but it might end up hurting you. My second reason is in business partnerships. Just like the analogy I gave of my boss, business partnerships will hurt you. It's important to network, and it's important to empower each other, and it's important to empower your community, but it's not good to go into it blindly. It's important to be kind, but in a business partnership, it's often important to be selfish as well. So a lot of people, like my boss, are kind and they give people who they really want to empower these positions, but it ends up hurting them. And just because they were kind and they wanted to do a nice thing, it ended up hurting them. My third reason of how this quote takes place is just as us as students. Oftentimes you go into class first day, you sit next to someone and you're like, okay, if I ever miss a class, this guy might take my notes. And then this person is thinking to themselves, wow, it's just another person trying to use me. Like I said, it's important to network, it's important to get these notes from people just in case maybe you're sick one day. But at the same time, if these people are kind enough to give you their notes, then they often can be taken advantage of, and they can often be used as well. So it's important as students to kind of watch your own back, and it's important not to be too kind, and because you're sacrificing your own well-being. So in conclusion, I gave you 3 reasons why this quote is very evident in relationships, in business relationships, and through classmates. So next time you decide to be Mr. Nice Guy or Mr. Nice Girl or Mr. Nice Woman, man, just kind of think twice about it. Think about how this will hurt you, the possible risks of it, and think about being kind, but have a balance of doing the right thing and not hurting yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay there for your feedback. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Rana.
Hi, Rana.
I really like how you thought on your feet for your introduction. You related it to something that happened maybe 5 seconds prior, and I thought that was really interesting. I really like your walking. I was watching it, and I'm I should be walking like that. So, good job.
Okay, we're here.
Hi, I'm Gabe.
Hi, Gabe.
I like your voice is very like gentle and calm and everything, but maybe if you just kind of varied it up a little bit, it would have been, especially for your main points, maybe just change the inflection a little more. Because it's very soothing, but then if you do the whole speech like that, I'm just kind of I don't know, maybe do something to break the flow. Yeah. Good speech though.
Okay, let's start at the top. I gave you the quote. I would have liked you to have repeated the quote in your introduction and in the main body of your speech so that it's apparent what the quote was and what your position was on the quote more apparently. You apparently interpreted the quote to me, don't be too nice because it's going to take you off the path, right? Yeah. Fair enough. So you say, if you stop to be kind, you must swerve off from your path. And it's not good to swerve off from your path. So I'm going to say, I agree with this quote. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. I needed to hear something like that and more of an introduction into the quote. and 3 times in your speech in relationships, in business, and in student activities. The significant statement for the students I didn't get developed well enough for. Why is it significant to them to hear about this topic? Okay, you made it significant down in the bottom, but I needed that better developed. On your main body, you talked about relationships, and here I think it's kind of interesting because you talked about the idea that in relationships you have to be kind, but there's a point where you can be too kind, right? And to me, I think that in the few rare times that I'm asked, Professor Miller, what should I look for in a mate? And I would say, forget about looks, forget about sex appeal, all this other stuff. I say, look for a kind heart, and that's going to go a long way in the day-to-day getting along in the operations if you find someone truly kind, right? So I wasn't so sure about your idea that you can be too kind in a relationship that you're in with somebody, but that's the argument you made. Okay? On your second point you made about business, and it related up to your Afghan and, her it was a woman, right? Willy-nilly hiring people because they're Afghanistanis and she just wanted to help the tribe, right? So, and you said she's going to get in trouble, as she apparently already has, by doing this, and so I think that's right. I think that I think that argument was good. On the on your third thing about when you walk into a class, you scope out the class and say, who am I going to study with? I can't be too kind because they're going to steal my notes and they're going to bend the curve, but I will have to be kind of nice because I might have to be absent and I might need notes. Kind of a Machiavellian approach, but it was consistent with your thesis, so fair enough. What was the time, by the way?
4:51.
Yeah, it was pretty short, so you needed to really develop this much more to go up to the 7:15. You had a good summary, your conclusion was there, and your tie-back was fine. So you got the job done. I think it just could have been better developed, and if you follow the models in there of the impromptus that I showed as models and the ones on YouTube, they go back to the quotation and reiterate it more often and make it clear what they're talking about. Okay? Thank you. Okay, who did I say was next? Shireen? And then after Shireen will be Sammy. Okay, the big zero. And after Sammy will be Liban. Libandini. Okay, then after that will be Mina. Okay. Okay, let me find Shireen. No, I'm calling the order.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
There's a method to my madness. Okay, I guess I'm going to throw you a curve. I'm not going to give you the most obvious one to talk about. I'm going to ask you to talk about quotation number 3, a proverb that says, how many angels are there? One who transforms our lives is plenty. Proverb. She's standing before you, managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, making sure no one's on their phone or texting, finding friendly eyes near the front and center. Say your name, feel the love. Okay. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm Shireen.
Hi, Shireen.
In 2009 in Iran, a rigged election occurred between the president Ahmadinejad and the opposition Mousavi. The color of this revolution was green. However, I myself as a freshman was in Iran, becoming a freshman in high school was in Iran that summer, during the time which all these people poured into the street to protest against the rigged election. Now, walking to my grandma's house one day, I didn't know that protests were going on in the main street. I was walking down the street and all of a sudden I see many people running my way. I didn't know what to do but to find refuge in a store. I went inside a store and a man with white pants stood in front of me who let me stay in his store, offered me tea and safety for an hour or two. Right then I realized that one angel was plenty in that instance who provided me refuge. However, when faced with the quote, how many angels are there? One who transforms our life is plenty, I disagree, because I think in the future, perhaps, I would need another angel if a similar instance were to occur. So the reason that one angel who transforms our life is not plenty is that people are not grateful for the angels they do have. More than one angel is needed often, and sometimes people don't want an angel. But why is this significant to you and I? I think everyone in this class may have an angel or desire for an angel, but at certain times we have to realize that maybe more than one angel is needed for our happiness. But let's look at the first point, which indicates that people may not be grateful for the angels that we do have. I think oftentimes people take for granted the people we do have in our lives, our friends, our family, strangers. We look upon it, we look past it, indicating that one angel isn't enough in this instance, because we don't realize the people we do have in our lives. But let's look at the second point, which indicates that more than one angel is needed in some instances. Let's take the story of Joanne Altman, who had a potbelly pig who owned a potbelly pig. Joanne Altman had a heart attack one day in her house, and her potbelly pig Lulu rushed into the street and stopped traffic, and rushed people inside to the house to show them that Joanne had a heart attack. This, in fact, saved Joanne's life. However, 2 weeks later, she had another heart attack, and Joanne passed away. So this indicates that although the potbelly pig was the angel in this instance, Joanne might have needed another angel in order to preserve her life. So what you can see is that sometimes we might need more than one angel in order for our life to be transformed. For instance, maybe when I was in Iran and next year I might need another angel if something similar happened. And sometimes one angel might not be enough. Take, for example, the current conflict occurring in the Middle East with ISIS. There definitely needs to be way more than one angel to stop the massacres, the human rights abuses, the beheadings going on over there. So what we can see is that one angel might not be the end-all or the solution to people's problems. A group of angels, however, might solve. But let's look at the third reason, that sometimes people don't want or don't need an angel. Rather, people like to be independent in their approach. Take, for example, my friend Cyrus, who went to rehab 6 months ago for his heroin addiction. Cyrus was lucky enough that his angels of a parents sent him to rehab. However, 2 weeks ago, he relapsed on heroin and is back to his old antics. So what you can see is that sometimes he didn't want an angel. So transformation can only be temporary. So what you can see is that sometimes we don't want an angel in our life, or we don't need an angel, or we're not calling for help. And in these instances, one angel who transforms our life is not plenty, it's not even needed. So what we can see is that people aren't grateful for the angels they do have. More than one angel is needed at times, and sometimes we don't even want an angel. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we're somewhere here.
Hi, my name is Glenn.
Hi, Glenn.
Great speech. I like your reference to like the three of the angels. How you tie it to our lives. How you might not need an angel sometimes, or you might need an angel. Like all of the three things.
Thank you, Glenn.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
I feel like you didn't really like give an example for the third point. So I think that's just what you understand. You made it shorter.
Yeah, I gave you, I thought, the hardest one to do, but you rose to the occasion. That was good. I'm sorry you used notes. I wish you would have trusted your memory, because it would have helped your credibility. Loved your story about being caught up in the revolutionary push in Iran and being saved by the angel of a shop owner. However, would have loved to have had a tie back at the end to that shop owner and or something else, or some reference to that, so we come the full circle, okay? Your preview and thesis was fine. You disagreed with the quote and sort of, and that was fine. Your sixth statement was fine. I agree with you that people aren't grateful for the angels. People aren't grateful in general, and I think that's a sad thing. I think that gratitude is a really nice thing to ponder on and meditate on, and I think it enriches one's life to think about the blessings that we have every day, because living here in America, we have many, and all you have to do is travel the world. And whenever I do, I come back, and I know it's corny, but I kiss the ground of Mother Earth when I get back to America. On your second reason, you need more than one. Yeah, absolutely. And on your third one, wasn't well developed, but I liked the example of Cyrus, the heroin addict, and him relapsing. That was excellent. And that's hard. That's a hard addiction to overcome. And, he's going to need many guardian angels to work that through. Your summary, your conclusion, and then we didn't have a tie back. What was unexpected in this speech? Did you have something unexpected that would make it sticky?
The pig.
The pig? Yeah, okay. I thought the pig story was awesome. Was excellent, and yet still not enough. It fell short, so that was good. What about the emotions?
I think the intro was...
The intro? Yeah. And the frighteningness. I think that you could have added something about your friend Cyrus and your disappointment and your sadness to bring in your emotions there too. Would have been good. Overall, you did a good job. Thank you. Okay, next will be, who did I say was next? Yeah, and then after that will be... Who still owes me one? Oh yeah. Mary. Next will be Hagop, then Miriam, and then Kimberly. Bad news. Got to change the battery.
Brainstorm a little early here.
Keep dreaming.